If they're not musicians, they're music lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So say I've had 90 people work for me at my TV company. I don't recruit. I think it's fair to say I recruit for smart and nice rather than any particular skill, because everything's changing so much and the tasks are all absolutely unique. There's no repetitive task. So I recruit for nice and smart and just hope everybody can figure it out. But weirdly, if you look across the 90 people, the degree to which musical aptitude or interest and left-handedness is so overrepresented, it's insane. I think, left-handed is something less than 10% of the population. It's like 80% of the people who work for me. And same with music. It's easily 80%. So though I'm not consciously doing it, I have a bias or there's some correlation between nice and smart and musical and left-handed.
What is the team at Arcadia who are smart, left-handed, red-haired musicians, because there's probably a disproportionate number of redheads too, I'm guessing, freckles. And what do they think, being in this creative culture that you've built, what do they think about the boss, you, selling off archives to the AI machine?
So to keep the framing consistent, I think the job of a leader is somebody who tells a story about the shape of things to come and explains to people what their role is in the story.
Right.
So in finance, if you ever read a finance document, a pitch proposal or whatever, there's a disclaimer on the front. It says, this document contains forward-looking statements. This document contains forward-looking statements means what you're about to see is bullshit, right? Under my definition of painting this picture. Yeah. So the people who, I have a bit of a Hotel California going on, like the people who come stay forever. But the people who don't make it are of a very particular type. They're of the type, you said XXX was going to happen, that we were going to get this show, that we're going to find this shipwreck, that we're going to get this financing. Yeah. And that didn't happen. Yeah. Therefore, you're a liar. You're a liar. Those are the people who have to go.
Well, yeah, it's a bit unkind. At best, you're just a lousy fortune teller. You could say, well, I didn't lie. I just read the tea leaves wrong this time. I read the tea leaves wrong this time. And so they place too much faith.
So those are people who very literal, very much they want the instruction list. If there could be a step-by-step instruction list, you do. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, with a book, like assemble this, assemble that, and sort of thing. That's not entrepreneurship. No entrepreneur has ever succeeded that way. That's not how it works. What happens is you see an undeveloped situation, you assemble whatever resources you have, and you make the best machine to move towards that goal. Or if you can't get to that goal, you go to a different goal. Yeah. They used to call that pivoting back in the old days. I don't think that's a cool thing to say anymore.
They're not. Yeah, no, it's used all the time. Pivots. It's still kind of popular to be in a pivot. Versos is, by some measures, people would say Versos has pivoted into the into this AI training data business. I would say no, we didn't pivot at all. We developed some underlying multimodal visual search and video processing capabilities, which we thought were really cool. We thought we could apply them to the gaming industry, and they did, but we either got distracted or discouraged or both and moved into this. It wasn't really a pivot. It was just a more interesting area for us to pursue. This idea of the people in your business, some fit and some don't. The rule followers probably are terrified inside a company like yours because there's no guardrails, no rules.
That's right. Yeah. You have to have, agency is a popular word now. You have to have a high agency. You have to come in the morning, not to do your job, but first imagine what your job is. And so I want to bring in this notion of imagination. So when you're talking about IP, when you're talking about creativity, when you're talking about forward-looking statements, it's all predicated on imagining things. You have to imagine what's going to happen before it can happen. And if you have a failure of imagination, you can't do any of those things. And you can't imagine other possible worlds than the one that's right in front of you.
You have to,
and you can't be part of this.
You have to imagine, and you have to have an appetite for reimagining, because your imagination is not a good fortune teller. It just isn't.
That's right. Well, part of imagination, there's no imagination without complexity. If you don't appreciate the infinite number of possibilities and complexities of the world, you can't have imagination. You have to have complexity to get. You have to have complexity and an infinite world of possibilities, or imagination is meaningless.
Would you describe yourself as an entrepreneur?
I would describe myself as a creative person who's applied it.
Okay, but would you consider yourself entrepreneurial?
No,
maybe I'm not trying to put a label on who you are.
It's just because I only resist that because to me, entrepreneur means that this is done in pursuit of profit.
Right.
That wouldn't describe what I'm doing here.
Right.
Remember what I told you about the stories and story wars. We got to interview Walt Disney's finance guy once.
Nice.
As he was old. Walt Disney had long passed, but this guy was really old. Buzz.
Still around.
His name was Buzz.
Of course it was.
And he said a couple of things about Walt Disney. One, he said you weren't allowed to say no around Disney. You had to say yes if. So you could be realistic. You don't have to be crazy, but he said yes, if. But the other thing he said, Walt always said, Buzz, we don't make movies to make money. We make money so we can make more movies.
Right.
So is that entrepreneurial, or is that just creative? So I'm in the latter. We make money so we can tell more stories.
How does fear show up in your world on a day-to-day basis?
My wife says that I don't have stress, but I'm a carrier.
Yeah, right.
And so part of imagination is, can you imagine things turning out good?
Right.
And imagining things turning out good, we call optimism.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm permanently hardwired to believe we've had a great run, Chris, 50 years. I still think the best times are ahead. I wake up every morning thinking, no matter how messed up this is, I think the best times are ahead.
Yeah.
The problem is...
So you're not a worrier?
Well, I'm not. I'm not. I take things seriously. I sweat it, but it's always superseded by imagining that the best times are ahead.
Yeah.
The problem is that after a certain point, the distinction between optimism and stupidity is nil. Like there's those two things, optimism and stupidity, are synonymous.
People have described me as stupidly optimistic.
Yeah.
Because the two are hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a line, a practical thing. What do I do? I definitely use just percentages. I hope this is going to happen. I'm
60%.
60%.
It's
right?
good enough. Yeah.
And we use it all the time.
Yeah.
I describe myself, I'm 38% gay. I'm 60% sure it's going to be nice out tomorrow. Just go
20% autistic.
Just put some numbers on it. Just to get in a zone.
That's right. So someone pointed out to me that this notion that there's an autism spectrum. They said, well, everyone's on it.
Yeah.
That's why they call it a spectrum.
Yeah, that's correct. Right. And so one of the most important places to use this is thinking about your team. And there's a line, here's Joe, he's 68% behind me all the way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a place where you got to part ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't want 100% behind you all the way either, because that's sycophantic.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna catch things, and they're gonna abdicate their responsibility to you. So